Okay, we're going to move on. So now we're talking about the dermis. Dermis. Okay, so if we draw our square skin again, here's our square skin. If we have this upper layer here, here's our epidermis. Below that, here's our dermis. And below this, hypodermis. We are interested in the dermis now. This is what we're talking about. Okay. So the dermis is the inner layer. It's the inner layer of the skin itself. Now, if you look at it close up, I kind of drew this crappily. Here's our skin. And what we actually see is the dermis is actually shaped like this. It's got these wavy lines. Okay, so you see these here? These are called papillae or papilla, depending on who you talk to. Okay, and basically that's just all that means is they are finger-like projections. That's all we have. Those are called dermal papillae. Dermal papillae. Okay, so we have the dermal papillae, and these are just finger-like projections. Actually, you can see them. You can actually see them on the bottom of your hand. So if you look at your hands, turn your hand over and look at them, and you can see these little ridges on your fingers and at their fingertips and basically on your palm. Okay, those things called fingerprints. Those are what you're looking at as you're looking at the dermal papilla. Okay. All right. So what the dermis does, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, is it connects. Wow, I am having a spelling issue today. It connects the epidermis to underlying stuff. Okay. So basically it's the binder. It binds the epidermis to the underlying tissues itself. Okay. It's specially designed for this. It is made of a special type of tissue called connective tissue. Okay, specifically called dense irregular. CT for connective tissue. It is connective tissue, specifically dense irregular connective tissue itself. Okay. Now, most of the accessory structures that we're going to talk about of the skin are actually inside of the dermis. However, they're not made by the dermis. Most accessory structures are actually made by the epidermis, but they sit inside of the dermis. Okay, this is where most accessory structures are located. Okay, your glands are here. The nerves are here. This is where your blood vessels run. Okay, your hair follicles sit here, and then they project out through the epidermis and to the surface of the skin. So that's what we have. Okay, most everything here. Okay, the dermis also has muscle fibers, has muscle tissues called the erector pili, and we'll talk about that when we talk about accessory structures. Don't worry, you need to worry about it now. But there are muscles inside the dermis as well. Okay, so this is where most of that stuff is. Okay, so I'll list those accessory structures: nails, hair, accessory structures. Actually, nails and hair aren't really in the dermis, but they're accessory structures. Nails are not in the dermis. Hair is. Glands, nerves, sensory nerves. Okay, for pressure and for light touch. Nerves are called Pacinian. Corpuscles. What they do is they detect pressure. And then you have these things called Meissner's. Meissner's corpuscles, yep, corpuscles. And these are for light touch. There are others, but you don't really need to know the others. Okay, so glands, nerves, and our glands here, we basically we got our apocrine glands and our sebaceous glands. Okay, apocrine glands / eccrine. And we have our sebaceous glands themselves. Okay, we'll talk about those again when we talk about glands, but that's all we need to know about it for now. Okay. All right, so the dermis. It's about 2 to 4 millimeters. No, it's actually, its thickness is about 1 to 2 millimeters. One to 2 millimeters. And there are 2 layers of the dermis. There are 2 layers of the dermis. Okay. Okay. The outer dermal layer is called the papillary layer. Okay. And guess what that is? That's where the dermal papilla are. Okay. And then you have the inner reticular layer. Okay. This is where most of your stuff lies. This is where most of accessories reside. Okay, and this is the thicker of the 2 layers. So if we draw our skin, if we draw our box of skin again, and we have this wavy. Okay, so you can see up in this area here, this would be the papillary. Okay, and here this would be the reticular. Okay, so that's just how it goes out. Okay, really not much exciting about the dermis, really. Basically, the thing to know about the dermis. Okay, what does it do? Holds the epidermis. Basically, the dermis holds the epidermis on. That's what you really got to think about. It just holds the epidermis on. Okay, it's where most of your accessory structures sit. So, what are the accessory structures? Your glands, your hair, your nails, nerves, and blood vessels. That's it. We've got 2 layers. You've got a papillary layer, which is the upper layer. Okay, and it's got the dermal papilla, which are your fingerprints, and then you have the reticular layer below it. Okay, what is the tissue that makes it up? It is called dense irregular connective tissue. That's what makes up the dermis. And with that, we are pretty much done with the dermis.